You know how preachers, they say, hey, finally, or in conclusion, and then they go on and on for another like 45 minutes. I mean, that never happens around here because, well, we usually don't say finally or in conclusion. And where preachers get it from? They get it from Paul, the apostle. He was good at that. Remember when he was preaching and Eutychus fell out the window? Paul goes down and prays for him, raises him from the dead, and then what does he do? He just carries on preaching through the night. And he does the same thing in Philippians. He says, finally, and then he goes on for another chapter. But in the beginning of chapter 3, verse 1, he says this, finally, rejoice in the Lord always, and again, I say, rejoice. And he says it's safe for me to say so. Well, this is interesting. And he's saying rejoice. He's not saying just be happy. Just put a smile on that face. Turn that frown around. He's saying something different. He's saying something more. He's saying something deeper. See, the word rejoice is not only a choice, but it's a command. And his final message was like, I got to tell you got to rejoice. And this is not about happiness based on happenings. It goes very deep into the souls. The reason he said it was safe was because he knew they were mature and they'd understand this. The reason I can say it to you now, I believe you're mature and you can understand this, that despite the circumstances, you can rejoice. It's a choice to rejoice. Now, Paul lived it out. Remember when he was in jail with Silas? It was midnight in a Roman jail. Not a good place to be. And what does he do? They rejoice. They start singing at midnight. Hey, Paul, you want to sing? Sure. What do you want to sing? How about rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice, ching, ching, the chains. And they go on singing, and the earthquake happens, and wow, the church in Philippi is actually born. So he lived it out. He rejoiced through trying circumstances. He was beaten up. He was left for dead. He was shipwrecked. All these other things. Danger from his people. Danger in the country. Danger in the city. But he rejoiced. He rejoiced. He rejoiced. Why? Because he knew something greater. He saw life from the inside out. He saw from God's perspective and not man's perspective. He had a greater perspective. So he says, I say this to you too. I want you to rejoice. Now there's a lot of words for rejoice. There's one word that means to jump up, leap up, and spin around as if under a violent emotion. I've tried that. As I get older, it's a little harder to do. But this word here used in this passage, it literally means to be exceedingly joyful, exceedingly glad, really glad, over the top glad. Not because a bunch of good things are happening. I mean, that's happenings. It's because you know something greater. You have a deep inner conviction that God is in control and God is trustworthy. That's what he means, that it's safe to say this. So I say it to you too. Even in the midst of COVID-19, even in the midst of economic craziness, all these things going on, people freaking out, you can still hear the words, rejoice. And again, I say it to you, rejoice.